Alright guys, so today you're going to start writing your outline for your research paper. Now, your outline consists of four different parts. So we have the introduction paragraph, we have a section on the author background, a section for the thematic analysis, and then we have a section for your conclusion paragraph. Now, your outline is going to follow this format. This is also page 4 in your research paper packet, the one that has the lime green sheet at the top. So what I've done, I have done an example using Gatsby. Now, excuse my terrible handwriting, but this gives you a good idea of what your outline should look like and what you should be writing for your outline. So your introduction paragraph, you're going to start with a hook. So I started with a broad statement. I believe that's the inverted pyramid. It says, imagine a life full of lavish parties and endless money. This is exactly the life Jay Gatsby builds for himself. And then I transition into The Great Gatsby and I say, however, F. Scott Fitzgerald shows us in his novel that money isn't everything. And then for C, I have my thesis statement where I say F. Scott Fitzgerald uses characters and conflict, those are my two literary devices, to prove that perceptions can have disastrous consequences. And that's my introduction paragraph. Now, when you move to number 2, these are the 2 paragraphs for the author background, and I've highlighted in yellow anywhere that is a body paragraph. So we have 2 paragraphs here. A is the first paragraph, and I started with my topic sentence. And I said Fitzgerald lived in the 1920s, which served as his inspiration for his novels. That's my topic sentence. And what I'm going to do is find evidence from my article about F. Scott Fitzgerald to put in here. So I found a piece of evidence that says, but because his personal and professional histories paralleled the times in which he lived and wrote, Fitzgerald will forever be identified with the jazz age of the 1920s. When I cited here, you may be wondering where I got this citation. On your articles that are printed out from Gale, if you go to the very last page, there is something on there that says source citation. It's at the very end of your document. You are going to use the first words of that document. So if it's an author's last name, you just put the author's last name. If it is, like mine doesn't have an author, it just says The Great Gatsby, or F. Scott Fitzgerald, I'm sorry. So I put F. Scott Fitzgerald, and that is my citation. And then I explained that, and I said his texts give a clear picture of what life was actually like at the heart of the Roaring '20s. So, what you're going to do, that is one piece of evidence example. Each body paragraph needs 2 pieces of evidence. So right here for 3 and 4, I just put repeat. You're going to repeat the same process. You're going to find another piece of evidence about his life in the 1920s, or whatever your author, their life, and then you're going to explain it. And then you come down here, and paragraph B for the author background is how their life affected their writing. So again, for A, there we go. Fitzgerald had quite a drunken roller coaster of a life that can be seen through the characters. That is my topic sentence, how his life affected his writing. And then I have a piece of evidence again. Much of the book's events were inspired by the Fitzgerald's drunken lifestyle. Again, F. Scott Fitzgerald is what I used to cite that. One can really get a sense for Fitzgerald's character's loss of self due to his personal touch. And then again, I would find another piece of evidence and explain that about how his lifestyle affects his writing. And that would complete 2 full body paragraphs. Please note, in your outline, you need complete sentences. It doesn't have to be perfect. My grammar is not completely perfect. It is not the greatest thing in the world. Some of these sentences I would change when I go to type. I'm obviously going to add sentences in there, but you need your evidence on there and you need to cite it. That's going to make your life so much easier when we go to type. Now, the third section is thematic analysis. So remember, you pick 2 literary devices or literary elements, whichever 2 you picked, and you're going to explain how those develop the theme. This is going to be 4 paragraphs. So I've done 1 paragraph for you. I said literary device 1, characters, and I'm going to use Gatsby. And here's my topic sentence right here. Fitzgerald uses Gatsby to build on his theme about perception. Very simple. And then you're going to pick a piece of evidence from the book that you're reading. Now I said loved me too. This is from chapter 7 when they're arguing and Daisy tells Gatsby that she loved them both. And I put Fitzgerald and the page number. Don't quote me on that page number. I returned my book to the library, so I just gave a number. All right, and then I explained. This shows that Gatsby has built his life on the false hope that Daisy was always waiting for him. Now what I'm going to do for 4, find a piece of evidence from the article about my book. And I said Gatsby's lavish existence cannot compensate for his lack of pedigree. I cited with The Great Gatsby. Again, there wasn't a specific author, and this was the first thing in the citation, The Great Gatsby, so that's how I cited it. And then I explained that. The thing keeping Daisy and Gatsby apart is not simply the money, but the only thing that Gatsby cannot change, his upbringing. And you are going to repeat that for the next 3 paragraphs. For paragraph B, you're going to do that same literary device with a character and your second example. So my second example might be George. And I'm going to do a paragraph just like the one before about George and his false perceptions. Then you're going to move to your second literary device for the last 2 paragraphs. And you have like an example of each. So my second literary device is conflict. So I might have Myrtle's death. And I might have the murder-suicide at the end. And I would do the same thing as before. Give an example from the book and then pull evidence to support that from your article. Then we move on to the conclusion paragraph. You're going to restate your thesis statement. So I've done that in A. Many of the characters' perceptions and the conflicts they cause suggest that false perceptions can be disastrous. And then I'm going to kind of bring that around and transition it. I said both Gatsby and George falsely perceive life, which leads to numerous deaths and countless letdowns. And then down the last sentence, I'm going to connect this theme about perceptions being disastrous to the real world. And I said, while this seems to be an exaggerated account of false perceptions, it still happens in society today. The rise in social media has resulted in a skewed image of our own lives, which has resulted in a lack of mental health. And I could keep that going for a couple more sentences if I wanted to. So that is your outline. Again, it is handwritten. You need all your evidence in there and your topic sentences. Again, when you go to write your essay, you're obviously going to write more than what's on your outline, but this is just gives you an idea of how to start, where to start from. This is going to be due Friday, November 6th, before you leave class. So keep that in mind, and I'll see you in class.